Good afternoon and welcome to the media edition of The World Today. It is a Southwest Network program of Radio Nigeria, Ibadan Zonal Station, comprising news, feature and sports. In the lineup, TED Fund set to develop security master plan for tertiary institutions. NAF releases 2025 recruitment test list. On the foreign scene, U.S. Navy recovers 2 crashed aircrafts. Building collapse kills 19 people in Morocco. In human rights as the day is being observed, while the feature is on Kudeti. My name is Stephen Agbaje. With me on the news is
Olubukola Enimola. Good afternoon. You can also listen to us on live stream via www.radionigeriaibadan.gov.ng or watch us live on Facebook at Premier FM 93.5. Be security conscious. Report any strange movement around you today. And now the news in detail. The Tertiary Institution Trust Fund, TET Fund, has announced plans to develop a comprehensive security master plan for tertiary institutions nationwide. The chairman of the Board of Trustees, Alhaji Aminu Masari, explained that the master plan was aimed to enhance threat prevention, detection and response capability. The former Katsina State Governor made this known during the opening ceremony of a 2-day workshop on campus security towards the development of a security master plan for tertiary institutions in Nigeria, where he outlined the various threats faced by tertiary institutions, including banditry, kidnapping, and cyber intrusions. According to him, the workshop, which was attended by all the chief security officers of all tertiary institutions, covered various aspects of campus security, including intelligence gathering and emergency response mechanisms. Alhaji Masari stressed the shared responsibility of campus security among government, security agencies, administrators, students, staff, and communities. He encouraged participants to approach the deliberations with dedication, innovation, and practical solutions, adding that the outcome of the workshop will significantly impact the safety of campuses and the future of Nigerian tertiary institutions.
The Nigerian Air Force has released the list of eligible applicants for the 2025 Basic Military Training Course Aptitude Test. A statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Ehime Ejodame, said the list has been published on the NAF recruitment portal and can be accessed at nafrecruitment.airforce.mil.ng. According to him, all shortlisted applicants are advised to arrive early and must come with their acknowledgement slips and required writing materials, as these are compulsory for participation. Air Commodore Ejodame said the service remained committed to a transparent and merit-based recruitment process aimed at selecting the most qualified young Nigerians to serve with honor and professionalism. According to the Air Force, the aptitude test will hold on Saturday this week at 15 designated centers nationwide, starting at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Ogun State Ministry of Women Affairs says the state has recorded 502 cases of gender-based violence, GBV, between January and November 2025, describing the figure as alarming and reflective of growing threats to women, girls, and other vulnerable groups. Commissioner for Women Affairs, Chief Dijat Adeleye, who made this known in Abeokuta after an advocacy work led by the First Lady, Ms. Bamidele Abiodun, to mark the 16 days of activism against GBV, affirmed that 120 cases were handled by the state sexual assault referral centers, while others came through area offices and partners. Chief Adeleye noted that although violence remains persistent, improved reporting had encouraged more survivors to speak up. She warned against rising digital abuses such as cyberbullying, sextortion, and online harassment targeting young people. The Commissioner highlighted government interventions and wider community sensitization to promote safety, consent, and digital responsibility. She called for stronger law, including special GBV courts and tougher penalties, urging parents, teachers, and community leaders to play active roles in safeguarding children while assuring survivors of continued state support.
As the world marks Human Rights Day, attention is shifting from lofty declarations to everyday realities that define the dignity of Nigerians. Beyond speeches and commemorations, many citizens say the true measure of human rights lies in whether people can eat, find shelter, and live without fear. In Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, those who spoke with Radio Nigeria argued that until governments at all levels prioritize policies that guarantee food security, decent living conditions, and safety, the nation's broader challenges will persist. Correspondent Adebola Ajayi reports.
The National Vice Chairman, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, CDHR, Mr. Yinka Folarin, noted that violence attacks being witnessed across the country was as a result of anger and frustration from people who could not afford simple and comfortable life, describing human rights as inalienable and fundamental civil liberties that could not be negotiated at any point in time and for anything for the peace and survival of the people and the country at large. On the theme for this year's commemoration, Human Rights, Our Everyday Essentials, Mr. Folarin pointed out that it focused on the importance of fundamental human rights such as food, water, shelter, and peace to attract joy, promote security, and bridge the gap between the imaginary and physical experiences of life.
As a country, we have got a long way to go as far as the respect for human rights is concerned, especially now that in Nigeria today, right to life is under serious threat by some enemies of our country engages in vices that undermines our collectivity.
The National Vice Chairman of CDHR implored parents, guidance, and relevant stakeholders to promote good food, sanitation, shelter, and safety for children from their tender age to shape them into responsible and compassionate adults in the future. This, he noted, will enable them to cherish and honor human dignity at all times and have the zeal to contribute positively to nation building. Also, the Abeokuta branch chairman of the Nigeria Bar Association, NBA, Mr. Kayode Aderemi, emphasized that the best way of life was a total respect for fundamental human rights, attributing the menace of Japa syndrome, ritual killings, terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping to lack of sustainable means of livelihood and insecurity in the country.
Human rights, beginning of course with rights to life, right to fair hearing, freedom of expression, thought, religion, association, rights to own property anywhere in the country, and the like. This is a set of rules that without them it will be difficult for human beings to live.
Mr. Aderemi advised Nigerians to remain committed and dedicated to the nation, hoping for a good turnaround instead of engaging in illicit acts that will end up in regrets. On his part, a public affairs analyst, Mr. Larry Jaji, called for more awareness and inspiration in the relevance of fundamental human rights through collective action to ensure dignity, equality, and justice for all, towards promoting a free community and peaceful atmosphere in the society.
There are a lot of ways that people do infringe on people's rights. The idea of unnecessary disturbance, giving noise pollution could be part of it. In a neighborhood, disturbing your peace and you cannot be able to sleep or whatever, your right is being infringed upon.
Some residents, including Dr. Oluwatimileyin Taiwo, Mr. Olaoluwa Samson, and Akin Akinade, shared experiences on infringement of their human rights.
During the last election, I made sure to register for my voter's card and to collect it. They were giving some excuses until the election came and passed.
It happened between me and my boss some years back. We were working on a contract. The return on the contract was supposed to be in millions. After getting the contract, it now cut me off the project completely.
If such happens, I know the right step to take, getting a lawyer to seek legal counsel. If we are able to get it resolved there, it will end there. If not, we'll go to court of law.
Other respondents stressed the need for people to promote love and be their brother's keeper at all times, noting that development could only thrive in a peaceful atmosphere. They also called on the government to address the excesses of some security agencies who infringe on people's fundamental human rights. Human Rights Day, celebrated on the 10th December every year, was established to honor the United Nations General Assembly's adoption and proclamation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, in Abeokuta, Adebola Ajayi, Radio Nigeria.
Human rights activists in the country have been advised on wise advocacy for human rights within the ambit of the law. The Attorney General of Ondo State and Commissioner for Justice, Dr. Oluwakayode Ajulo, alongside other stakeholders, gave the advice in Akure, the state capital, while speaking on this year's Human Rights Day. Correspondent Olorunferonmi Odofin has details.
Human Rights Day is commemorated annually on December 10. The day marks the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948. In Nigeria, Human Rights Day is an opportunity to highlight issues concerning inequality, police brutality, freedom of speech, among others, during which many organizations and activists raised awareness and pushed for reforms. The Attorney General of Ondo State and Commissioner for Justice, Dr. Olukayode Ajulo, and the zonal head, Side-by-Side Movement Nigeria, Reverend Dr. Ebenezer Oke, described human rights as core rights, pivotal to enjoying other rights.
Human rights have the basic freedom and protection that every person deserves simply because they are human. Once we are human, we can eat, we can sleep, we can laugh, we can do all those things. The same things with the issue of human being.
Human rights are freedoms and entitlement that every person has by virtue of being human.
Atomizing some of the human rights, Dr. Ajulo said human rights remain legally binding and highly permissible.
It is universal right to life, liberty, equality, education, and freedom from discrimination or torture. The same thing with freedom of association, freedom to think, freedom to hold opinion, and sometimes freedom to talk.
Dr. Ajulo, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, explained that over 190 countries signed into law the major human rights treaty with the exception of few countries.
There are some countries you are not allowed to even say what you like to do, unlike Nigeria where anyone can say anything. But gradually we'll get there. But the key here is advocacy, education, and holding our leaders accountable to make this human right real.
The Ondo State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, however, encouraged activists to wisely champion rights legally within the limits of the law.
Not that we say because we're activists, we take to street, we face the bullet. I don't think that is what it is. But we must champion this right relentlessly. We must study the law, the power, and its limit. And we must pair it with empathy and strategy. We must advocate through courts, community, even on social media. But we must always build coalition.
Reverend Dr. Oke and another rights activist, Ambassador Oluwatosin Daramola, said the day attracted numerous benefits to humanity.
They protect human dignity and ensure every person is treated with respect. They promote equality by preventing discrimination, legal protection against abuse of power. They support peace and stability. They enable people to develop socially, economically, and politically, contributing to national growth.
The theme for this year's Human Rights Day is Our Everyday Essentials. In Akure, Olorunfẹ́rànmi Odofin, Radio Nigeria.
In today's Heart of the Matter, Fumilola Ogbagbaegun of our Current Affairs Unit writes on championing human rights as the day is being observed.
Human rights are fundamental characteristics of any true democratic setting, and their protection is crucial for promoting equality, fairness, and justice for all. The doctrine of human rights has been influential in international law, global and regional institutions. These rights include the right to life, liberty, and freedom, freedom of expression, religion, right to fair hearing, and freedom from torture. However, human rights violations persist, often occurring in structural settings where those in power exploit those under them. Contributory factors to these abuses include selfishness, corruption, lack of rule of law, ignorance, and religious sentiment. In Nigeria, institutions such as the National Human Rights Commission, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and Human Rights Education Commission were established to protect human rights. However, these institutions face challenges including inadequate funding, corruption, and limited independence. To address human rights abuses, it is crucial for Nigerians to obey the rule of law and check such abuses. The theme for this year's Human Rights Day is Human Rights, Our Everyday Essentials. This theme highlights how human rights are fundamental to our daily lives, shaping our routines, workplaces, relationships, and possibilities. It is about recognizing that human rights are not abstract principles, but essential protections and freedoms that allow people to live with dignity, safety, and hope. The government should uphold citizens' trust in seeking redress in the court of law when their rights are violated. Human rights education must be provided through the media to educate citizens on their rights and how to seek redress. The military should be encouraged to use minimal force during crisis, while human rights offenders must be held accountable through proper application of retributive justice. Overhauling the judiciary is also essential to curb human rights abuses in Nigeria. As Human Rights Day is observed, it is important to stand up for human rights by promoting a culture of respect, equality, and justice for all. It is high time for individuals to stand up for human rights by speaking out against human rights abuses, supporting human rights defenders, and promoting human rights awareness. They should also support organizations working on human rights, including non-governmental organizations, community groups, and charities. Government should ensure that institutions responsible for protecting human rights, such as the National Human Rights Commission, are independent, well-funded, and empowered to investigate and prosecute human rights abuses. There should be increased training for law enforcement agencies and other government officials on human rights education. Lastly, all citizens must have access to justice, including access to fair trials, legal representation, and compensation for human rights abusers.
That script on championing human rights as the day is being observed was written by Fumilola Obagbaegun of our Current Affairs Unit and read by Feyishara Owomoyela.
This is the world today, the stories that made the headlines. TED Fund set to develop security master plan for tertiary institutions. NAF has released 2025 recruitment test list, and still to come, U.S. Navy recovers 2 crushed aircrafts, and building collapse kills 19 people in Morocco. Do stay with us.
Glad to know you're still with us for the rest of the news. Osun State Governor Senator Ademola Adeleke has officially unveiled the Accord Party as his new political platform, declaring his intention to seek a second term in office under the party's banner. He made the announcement at the banquet hall of the Government House, Osogbo, the state capital, in the presence of national and state leaders of the Accord Party, whom the governor formally received as political partners. Explaining the rationale behind this choice, the governor said Accord's party philosophy of welfarism aligns strongly with his administration's emphasis on citizens and workers' welfare. Governor Adeleke assured Accord party leaders of full cooperation, stressing the need for unity ahead of the 2026 governorship election. The governor also rallied support across the 3 senatorial districts, urging residents from Osun West, East and Central, as well as communities such as Ijeshaland, Ifeland, Osogbo, Iwoland, Igbomino, Ikirun, and his hometown, Ede, to vote for Accord in 2026.
The newly elected chairman of the Nigeria Union of Journalists and Oyo State Council, Mr. Akim Abbas, has promised to hit the ground running immediately. Mr. Abbas made the promise while delivering his acceptance speech after he was declared winner of the chairmanship seat at the 2025 Oyo State NUJ election. Mr. Abbas, who described the election as free and fair, pledged to run an all-inclusive administration with the mandate of transforming the union.
I only assure everybody that what we wrote in our manifesto will be implemented to the latter.
Mr. Abbas, a senior director of the news agency of Nigeria, NAN, Mr. Akim Abbas contested on the platform of the Great Minds team and polled 143 votes, defeating his closest rival, Mr. Raji Adebayo, who had 118 votes. Other newly elected officers are Mr. Abiodun Atilola from the State Information Chapel, who was elected as vice chairman. Mr. Temidayo Adu from the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Ibadan, won the seat of the NUJ secretary with 160 votes. 2 members of staff of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Mr. Adu and Mr. Moses Morenikeji, commended NUJ members and FRCN staff in particular for their support. The new executives will pilot the affairs of the union for the next 3 years.
In the meantime, former Senate leader and All Progressives Congress APC chieftain Senator Taslim Folarin has congratulated the newly elected executive leadership of the Nigerian Union of Journalists NUJ Oyo State Council, led by its chairman Mr. Akim Abbas, on their victory at the just concluded council election. The congratulatory message was contained in a statement made available to newsmen in Ibadan. Senator Folarin described the emergence of the new team as a reaffirmation of the trust and confidence reposed in them by practicing journalists across your state, noting that the union occupies a strategic position in the deepening of democracy and the promotion of good governance. According to him, journalism remains a noble profession that requires integrity, courage, fairness, and ethical responsibility, expressing confidence that the new NUJ leadership would uphold all. The former Senate leader urged the new leadership to prioritize professionalism, capacity development, ethical reportage, unity within the union, and constructive engagement with stakeholders. He emphasized that the public looks to journalists not only for information, but for guidance, clarity, and truth, especially in times of political and socio-economic uncertainty. He wished the new executives a successful and impactful tenure.
Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) has advised Nigerians to adopt practical tips that could help them manage their data usage effectively. The NCC Zonal Controller, Mr. Tunji Jimo, gave the advice while featuring in Paramount FM Telecom Consumer Town Hall meeting on data usage and data management. Mr. Jimo explained that one of the key steps users could take was a set data alerts and monitor usage regularly, which could be done by using built-in trackers, third-party apps, and services provided by mobile network operators, MNOs. He also urged mobile subscribers to activate the Data Safer feature on their devices to cut down data usage and prevent apps from using data on the background. The zonal controller explained that the Telecom Consumer Town Hall meeting on radio was designed to educate the telecom consumers on the mandate of the Commission and to share up-to-date information on how the NCC was delivering its mandates.
And on to the foreign scene, the United States Navy says it has recovered 2 aircraft that crashed into the South China Sea in October while flying off the U.S. Nimitz ship. In a statement, an unmanned system on a contracted vessel was used to lift the aircraft, a fighter jet and a helicopter, from the depth of the sea. While neither is the most modern of the Navy's aircraft, experts say the wrecks could have yielded useful intelligence if they had fallen into the hands of an adversary. Beijing asserts ownership of over almost all of the strategic waterway in defiance of an international court ruling. However, United States forces maintained steady presence in the region to push back on Chinese sovereignty claims and support Washington allies and partners.
South Korea has lodged a complaint with the Chinese and Russian defense attaches based on the country after their warplanes entered into its air defense zone. The country said it sent up jet fighters to take tactical measures in preparation for any emergencies after 7 Russian and 2 Chinese military aircraft briefly entered the zone. According to South Korean media, the Russian aircraft entered Korea's air defense identification zone known as Cadiz, while the Chinese aircraft entered near Yeouido.
At least 19 people have been killed while 16 others were injured when 2 buildings collapsed in Morocco's historic Fez city. Reports say the death toll from the collapsed 4-story buildings inhabited by 8 families included children. Police and civil protection services said the injured were transported to the University Hospital Center in Fez. Some authorities have suggested that many structures could have been weakened following a massive earthquake that ravaged the city in 2023.
And now to the feature for the day. Kudeti is a popular area in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. How was the name Kudeti arrived at? Let's join Emilia Ojamudia for details.
Kudeti is renowned as a key historical and religious site in Ibadan. It is home to the first-story building in Oyo State, which is owned by the Anglican Church and known as David Hindera's House or Hindera's Bishop's Court. This site is considered the birthplace of Christianity in Yoruba land. It is situated in the older core area of Ibadan, which is characterized by hills and interwoven streets. It is part of the area that includes Idiarere, Eleta, and Oritakpere. The name Kudeti is believed to be a localized corruption of the English phrase too dirty. A British district officer was said to have been observing how residents used a local river for various activities such as washing, bathing, defecation, and drinking. He exclaimed that the water was too dirty, and the residents adopted this phrase as the name of the area, Kudeti, which has been a focus for infrastructure development with road reconstruction projects such as the Idiarere Kudeti Eleta Road being completed recently to improve connectivity. It is an established community with ongoing efforts to address local issues such as gang-related violence and to incorporate the area into the broader Ibadan City Master Plan for improvement.
That feature on Kudeti was written by Lilian Ibom.
To end the news on the world today from stable of Radio Nigeria, here again are the Dave's top stories. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TETFund, has announced plans to develop a comprehensive security master plan for tertiary institutions nationwide. The Nigerian Air Force has released the list of eligible applicants for 2025 Basic Military Training Course Aptitude Test. The United States Navy says it has recovered 2 aircraft that crashed into the South China Sea in October while flying off the U.S. Nimitz ship. And we also brought to you that at least 19 people have been killed while 16 others were injured when 2 buildings collapsed in Morocco's historic Fes City.
And that's it on The World today. Do join us tomorrow for a fresh edition of the program. Rashida Makinde edited. My name is Ulubukola Enimola. Thanking you for joining us and do have a pleasant day. For my colleague
Stephen Agbaje, thanks for listening.